karakia first. If we're starting our meeting.
That this morning.
My cultural advice was that the karakia we had at the beginning was what was required, but I will be asking you at the conclusion. But I'm super relaxed, and I've said it before, Kahu, on matters of tikanga. You're my primary advisor, and if you would like to begin us with a karakia, that would be welcomed.
Right, ka pai tika. Tēnei te tikanga o te whare nei. Mihi mai na kia koutou, nau mai haramai ki te hui tuatahi o te tau, ngā tau e toru. Kia koutou e rangatira mā, nau mai, haramai, whakatau mai rā. Ānei he kōrero, ānei he karakia. Ngā tipuna katoa, i mai rano, i mahia mai rā, ngā atua katoa, tēnā koutou, nau mai hoki mai ki Wainganui e tātou, i tēnei hui, e whakapai o tātou wairua, te aroha, te Māori, o tēnei kaunihia. Whano, haramai te toki, haumia hui e tae kia.
Tae kia. The floor is the Chief Executive.
Take two. Look, it's a real honour of mine to sit here before you to kickstart the first papers for this triennium. I'm afraid they're very boring papers, and I hope these boring papers are just to get the business underway, and that we can get into the real meat of the business. What I'm really excited about is under the leadership of Nick and Pete and the other councillors, I think we've got an amazing opportunity for this city that my family and I love, and for this whole region. And I'd love to see the camaraderie that I've already seen today, the great speeches that we've had, and the opportunity for you as leaders to collectively move forward. What I'm doing as the leader of the staff, and I'm really grateful to Nigel and others for calling out the importance of the staff. This does not work without them. And what I've been doing, as you know, and you'll have all read seen this beautiful picture of me on the front of the paper, but I would commend that to all you and the public around to look at what we're doing with shaping our future, because that's all about building a council and an organisation. The $2.5 billion social enterprise that we run is to deliver for this city, and we are on the back of that. We've got a new leadership team which is coming in, and I'm very excited about that team, which will all be in place by the 5th of January. And I'm building an organisation that can deliver to the direction that is set by the 13 elected members that sit around this table. And as I say, I'm really excited. I think we've got some great leadership, we've got some great thinking, we've got some diverse views, and it's really important that you have that collective debate and discussion in a free and frank and friendly way. And as I've challenged you before over the last couple of weeks, as we've been inducting you into the organisation, it's building up to giving me, as the chief executive, some very clear direction as to what you collectively want to take us into the next long-term plan and the thinking. So the more crystal guidance you can give me, I can give that to the staff, and then I can put the close to 400 people of this organisation into really delivering what you as elected members, and you've been talking to the people of Nelson recently through the election process. You understand what they want, and if you can narrow that down now as a group of 13 and really give me clear guidance, that would be an amazing opportunity. And look, I've got amazing staff. I've now got a great group of leaders, and I'm very excited about the next 3 years, and I'm proud to play my small part in helping you deliver what you want to do.
Thanks, Nigel. I made the comment in my inaugural speech, and I'll just re-emphasise it. It would be really easy for us to have a coasting chief executive that left everything the same. The shaping our future is bold, but it is going to require a high level of tolerance and patience as we work with Nigel and his staff and bed it in and help support him in making it work. So thanks, Nigel, and I think I speak on behalf of all of the elected members in saying that we're looking forward to working with you and your team as we seek to deliver for the city. We now come to the first formal report which is in both the name of Nigel and I understand, is it Devorah is joining us at the table? This is the legal requirement for us to be advised of our legislative responsibilities. I'm happy, Nigel, for either yourself or Devorah to lead off. Happy to do as you wish.
If you wouldn't mind just saying that we have no apologies, that would be.
Oh, we have had no apologies. Did not mention to say that, so they're not meant to be there. And we move to item 5, which is the legislative matters affecting our council. For new members, it's a legal requirement that at the very first council meeting, the staff brief us on our legislative obligations.
Thank you, Mayor Nick. And through the chair, kia ora koutou. Welcome and congratulations to everyone. As Mayor Nick has explained, the Local Government Act does require that a couple of matters are dealt with specifically at the inaugural meeting of a council, and that includes a general explanation of certain pieces of legislation that impact on elected members, as they impact quite directly and personal on you. You have been provided with a report which provides that general explanation. Some of the legislation that needs to be covered has been covered in more depth already in our induction session yesterday. And so I'm going to spend less time on those pieces of statute today because we've done a much deeper dive previously. The pieces of legislation that are required to be covered and in terms of a general explanation are the Local Government Official Information and Meetings Act 1987, that's LGOIMA by his shorter name, the Local Authority Members Interest Act 1968, or LAMIA as we sometimes refer to it as, the Crimes Act 1961, specifically sections 99, 105 and 105A, the Secret Commissions Act 1910, that one's going back a bit, and the Financial Markets Conduct Act 2013. There are some other newer pieces of legislation which you have also provided a general explanation to you in this report on, because they are of particular relevance to cover early on in terms of responsibilities that you might hold under them and things to be aware of and think about. The Local Government Pecuniary Interest Register Amendment Act 2022, we covered alongside the members' interest discussion that we had at the induction session yesterday. More information is covered in the report today, and so I'm not going to dwell too deeply on that one again. Again, the Privacy Act 2020 does place both rights and responsibilities on you as elected members, as part of Council, the agency, but we've talked briefly about that yesterday, and I'd encourage you to ask any further questions of that once you've read through the general explanation within this as well. Happy to answer those. The Health and Safety at Work Act 2015, I'm going to cover briefly today, although it is extra to the legislative requirement. But as your induction sessions progress, more information about health and safety from a variety of perspectives is going to be provided to you. So that will happen over the next few weeks. For now, I'm going to place most emphasis on the 3 slightly unusual acts and older acts, which are not dwelt with in such detail within the induction sessions. So that starts with the Crimes Act 1961, those 3 particular sections within it. So the Act outlines penalties for officials, which includes any member of a local authority who accept bribes or agree to accept bribes for actions taken or not taken in the course of their official duties. The bribe may take a variety of forms. It doesn't necessarily have to be money. It can go beyond that. There are also penalties for officials who corruptly use or disclose information obtained in their official capacity for financial gain for themselves. Penalties under this Act and under these sections include imprisonment for up to 7 years, so please don't indulge yourself in these acts.
Can I grab a question through the chair just for clarity? You mentioned that for bribes taken and not taken. So
Sorry.
if you don't take a bribe, then you are in contravention of the...
So who accept bribes or agree to accept bribes for actions taken or not taken.
It's the actions
I
not
beg your
taken.
pardon. Thank you for the question of clarification.
I will take questions on any of these acts after Devorah has completed her presentation.
So general explanation, Crimes Act, please do not accept bribes or agree to accept them, and please do not corruptly use or disclose information that you have obtained in your official capacity. The Secret Commissions Act 1910. This is an older piece of legislation, and some of the terminology is older as well, and it refers to an agent. We talked a little bit yesterday at the induction session that every piece of legislation has its way of referring to an organisation or an individual. An agent is the term that's used in this particular piece of statute. An agent, which is a term that does include elected members of a local authority, must not give or receive gifts or inducements to do or not do things in relation to the business of council. Elected members as agents must not divert, obstruct or interfere with the proper business of council, and must not fail to use due diligence in conducting that proper business with the intent to gain any gift or consideration for themselves or any other person. So there's a lot in this legislation around managing what you do and the decisions you make, and ensuring that you are not personally gaining or attempting to gain anything for yourself in your conduct. You must make known any financial interest that you hold in any contracts undertaken by council. That includes interests held by spouse or partner, parent, child or business partner. It is an offence to produce false or incomplete receipts, invoices or other accounting documents with an intent to deceive council of any payments that have been made to you as the member. And it is an offence to receive any secret reward for facilitating particular contract procurement outcomes. There are a range of penalties under this Act, which again include imprisonment for up to 7 years. Last of the three of this pack of legislation is the Financial Markets Conduct Act 2013. And this essentially places elected members in the same position as company directors wherever council offers financial products, such as the issue of debt or equity securities. So in that event, elected members may be personally liable if documents that are registered under this Act, such as a product disclosure statement, includes false or misleading statements, or if any requirements under the Act are not met in relation to offers of financial products. The Health and Safety at Work Act, I am going to cover briefly today, as I mentioned. Elected members do fall under the term of officer within this Act. Officers do have obligations of due diligence under the Health and Safety at Work Act, which are to acquire and keep up-to-date knowledge of work health and safety matters, to gain an understanding about the nature of the operations of the business or undertakings of council, and generally of the hazards and risks associated with these operations, to ensure that council has available for use and uses appropriate resources and processes to eliminate or minimise risks to health and safety from work carried out as part of council's business, to ensure that council has appropriate processes for receiving and considering information regarding incidents, hazards, risks, and for responding in a timely way to that information. Ensure that council has and implements processes for complying with any duty or obligation of council under the Act, and to verify the provision and use of resources and processes that have been referred to in those obligations. So in hyper summary, make sure that you know for yourselves what's in place, and there's a governance oversight responsibility to make sure that council is doing the best that it can in this space and using everything in its power, information-wise and process-wise, to protect its workers. I'm going to leave the general explanation at that. Thank you, Mayor Nick. There is obviously more information, written information in the report. And as we've shared over the last couple of days, we're very open to questions being asked. If you want to do a bit more of a deep dive, or if you're concerned that something may more personally affect you. So we look forward to hearing from you. Thank you.
Thanks, Deborah. Happy to have any questions from members about any of the acts that she has outlined and the report that we are required by law to note. Councillor Skinner.
Well, almost a sleepless night when signing a declaration that's got those acts, 2002, 1987, and there's one called the Other Act. Any other act.
Yeah. Did your Google search not find any other?
And I was about to ask for legal advice when I had the pen and paper there, but I thought better. But
Councillor Skinner makes a good point. The number of acts under which council operates is, as I understand it, over 200.
because it could be caught out with an anti-chocolate biscuit act or a Don't Pet Cats act or something. Am I going to be caught out?
And that's
on the
just
act that we've not named?
and I think that's just a good collective reminder is that while Devora has appropriately highlighted the really important ones, if councillors have questions, we've got good in-house legal expertise to help provide advice. And actually many of our detailed works, whether it be the work of ALEC or particularly the RMA, have a lot of complexity to them, and we rely on our staff to help guide us in ensuring that our decisions are lawful.
So, in seriousness, any other acts, the wording's a little bit, they said any other acts that are
Well, the reason
but it's almost as if you can bring in an act that
Operate lawfully, Tim.
well, the fact is that Devora can't pick. Every single week, Parliament's passing new laws. A large number of them impact on our
we're in your good hands. We're in your good hands, and Devora, and
Nick
I wrote that there was no act that's going to.
Nick wrote most of the laws that we have to deal with. So.
Some of them.
I can't wear a gold.
only the good ones, I assure you, Mr. Chief Executive.
Cheers, thank you.
Councillor Anderson.
Thank you, to the Mayor. Just for an example, so, if I'm Financial Markets Conduct Act 2013, I'm not a company director and I've done no training in that, but I see that I have some obligations in the Health and Safety Health and Safety at Work Act, so there is zero professional development in and around my competency in this space. What practically do I need to worry about? Like, I don't see how my actions in my normal day work would. There must be examples. I know it's an act, but I don't know why
Devora.
it applies to me.
Nikki Harrison might be a better place to speak directly to the Financial Markets Conduct Act. But in the event that council were to offer financial products, there would be an extensive discussion process leading up to that eventuality, which to my mind would include ensuring that elected members continue to be aware of the ramifications of that, their obligations to that as governors, and overseeing that process and what happens at this point in time. Things like the Official Information and Transparency Acts are probably of more import to bring yourself across. In terms of the Health and Safety at Work Act, there is definitely going to be further information that's covered over the next few weeks for you in terms of what's involved there, both as governors, but also in terms of your own health and safety and well-being in this environment.
I would add, Councillor Anderson, that the Financial Markets Conduct Act was highly relevant for councils when they issued their own debentures. But because of all of our debt debentures today are done through the Local Government Funding Authority, there's a lot less risk for Nikki and the team to manage in that area. With respect to the health and safety, I'm intending to do the same as we did last term, and that is have those reports going to the Finance, Audit and Risk Committee. And so those members who serve on that committee, and that'll be a decision for us to make prior to the November meeting, do need to brush up on those council obligations around the Health and Safety and Employment Act 2015. Any other questions for colleagues? That being the case, I'm going to move from the chair the two resolutions that we note the explanation that we've received on those acts in A to E, and that we further note those explanations provided in A to C. I'm counting on the Deputy Mayor.
Is it time?
Yes. We haven't done our 6 hours yet.
Oh, right.
Pete's told me as Deputy Mayor that I should not count on his support for those long council meetings where we go to 6 hours. And the piece that he's going to add as Deputy Mayor is to encourage us to be more succinct. And I look forward to him helping me with that. Is the Deputy Mayor happy to chair? Happy to second. Happy to second. Thanks, Pete. I'll put that. All those in favour, please say aye. To the contrary, say no. We come to the next item on the agenda. I invite Nikki Harrison with Devora. Do I need to?
I think it's around.
The Chief Executive has some frustration about the Auditor General. Myself,
The Auditor General, I want to be quite clear. The
office. Myself and the Mayor have, myself and the Chief Executive have signed the annual report. There is this mad scramble because we are lawfully required by the end of October to sign off on the annual report as a council, but equally we cannot do so until the auditor has given their final report. I'm going to have to ask for council's indulgence and simply adjourn the council until such time as those last of those conversations between our finance officer, Nikki Harrison, and the auditors completed. Please do not leave the building. It is my hope that it will be resolved within 15 minutes.
We can do the 15.
I'm sorry, Councillor Brand.
Aren't
yes,
we doing
can.
the setting of the meetings?
Yes, we can. And I think yeah, that's right. So why don't we come, my apologies. Councillor Brand has me correct. I've gone and jumped an item. We come to item 6.1, the fixing of the dates of meetings for the rest of the year. My apologies, Devora. I knew you were giving me a funny look. Now I know why. I assure councillors this won't be the first slip you get from the chair. Devora, this item of setting those two council meetings.
Thank you, Mena. Very quickly, this is the second of matters that must be covered by council. It must set at least the first ordinary business meeting for itself. We're proposing to set the first two because of where we're at in the calendar year. So those proposed dates are 9 a.m. on the 13th of November, so that's 2 Thursdays' time. And then a month after that, or 4 weeks after that, 9 a.m. on the 11th of December. So thought has been given in terms of the phasing of particular business and the next stage in terms of governance structure and so on as to timing. So we hope that you're comfortable with those dates, but ultimately your decision. Thank you, Mena.
Thanks, and happy to take the movement from Councillor Skinner and a seconder from Councillor Pakipaki. Can I just, for members' information, it's my intention for council's ordinary meetings to be on the first Thursday of the month, as it was in this term for calendar year 26. We'll be setting those dates at the December meeting. The reason that these two are a little out of that sync goes back to just we weren't able to do the swearing in till the votes were counted, and so there is a 1 week delay on these two meetings just to get us our governance structures and those things in place for the year. Happy to take any questions for Devora or myself on the recommendations of those two dates for our formal meetings for November and December if there are any questions. There are no questions. It's been moved and seconded. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Contrary, say no. That is carried. I see the Chief Executive strolling the corridors. We're going to take a break until 3:45, and if there's any change in that time, just keep an eye on your WhatsApp. Council is adjourned. I do note a little bit of frustration of trying to get the I's dotted and the T's crossed with Audit New Zealand, but it is a legal requirement. Nikki, well, you're in good hands to take us through the annual reports adoption.
Do you want to hand out? Maybe. Welcome, everyone. Thank you. Let's get my heart under control. So the annual report has to be adopted by the 31st of October each year. That's the statutory timeframe.
There are no men.
They can share. Thank you. Just trying to save paper. So as part of that this is always a bit of an awkward situation in an election year, that you basically have to swear in a council and adopt an annual report all in the same meeting. So it's a little bit uncomfortable, but that's how it works in an election year, and we can't get the audit any earlier. So as I sent out the annual report this morning, and it's been loaded up on Docs on Tap. It's very late in the process and really reflects a lack of resourcing at Audit New Zealand. You know, they were looking at performance measures this week, so it's been pretty tight and stressful for everyone. Within the audit report that's just been received, and which was what we were waiting on, there are two emphasis of matters, and I just want to be really clear. This is an unqualified, you know, squeaky clean audit. There are two emphasis of matters which are in pretty much all councils' audit reports this year. One is around the future of water delivery, and so that's just a standard one. And then there's also some comment around the uncertainty around the measurement of greenhouse gas emissions, and the fact that things are this, you know, the reporting is evolving over time and getting more and more stringent, and that has actually led to one of our performance measures around greenhouse gas emissions moving from achieved to not achieved. So effectively, the annual report is pretty much the same as what went to the Audit Risk and Finance Committee on the 17th of September, other than that one performance measure. Yeah, and I'd just really like to thank staff, like particularly Kent and Gemma, who have worked really hard on getting this done. So happy to take any questions.
Thanks, Nikki, and can I thank the work of staff in working with the Audit Office to enable us to be able to get a clean audit. This was reviewed by the Finance Audit and Risk Committee, but Nikki, could you just clarify that last comment you make, just for me to absorb it, and that is the one change from the Finance Audit and Risk report to this report, just so it can be quite explicit about what that one issue is, given that the Finance Audit and Risk Committee had a good look through all the others.
So the one material change from my perspective is really in that performance measure for the measurement of greenhouse gas emissions. That is a performance measure which has gone from achieved to not achieved. And if, yeah, I mean, we've got the detail of why that is, and that's related to a trend over time, but it's really the first year that it's really been dug into and measured properly. And that also ties into the emphasis of matter, that this is an evolving piece of work, this whole audit of greenhouse gas emissions, and it's actually a lot more complicated.
And I just tease that point out, and that is it that the measurement, and I know there's a massive argument, it's a practical example for colleagues, we run the York Valley landfill. Should all the emissions from the York Valley landfill be registered against Nelson when half of the rubbish that goes there come from Tasman? And so there's all these technical questions about what goes where. Is the non-achieved that has changed in the final audit report relate to the reduction in emissions or relating to the way in which the emissions are measured?
Through the chair, this is my first disclosure or answering questions in my new role as in the council. I've just started here 2 months ago, so any breaches of etiquette, I apologise. But in response to your question, we don't know at this point. It is very close, so there are methodological changes which our carbon auditors and financial auditors don't agree on. And what we are seeing is that over time, from 2017 to now, we have had a significant decrease of emissions, 89%. So we've done really well. Between 23 and 24, the emissions are stable and they're either a little bit above or a little bit below. And we were not able, we only found out that we thought they were a little bit below when we talked to the carbon auditors. After talking to the financial auditors, they insisted a little bit above. So if you would like to unpick it further, we will be doing that. And we acknowledge that the methodology for setting the performance measure and then reporting on it needs improvement as it is evolving in New Zealand altogether. And we will be working on it as a priority this year. So next time round.
That's good explanation. The piece that I'm understanding is the methodology around how we've measured it. There's been some debate between the auditors and that. What I think would be helpful, simply because it's different from where finance, audit and risk was, is just an email out to all councillors, just simply summarising how it has changed and why it has changed, in terms of which are reasonably understandable. So just a short one pager so that we understand where it has gone from being an achieved target to a non-achieved. Councillor Skinner.
Thank you. Just kind of understand. So the auditor's saying that they can't sign it off, or that we've made an error in the way we've measured it. Is that what they're saying? It's not a case of we've achieved something or not achieved. They're saying that going through the books,
my understanding,
we haven't taken into the fact that we've gone below an achievement rather than the achievement we thought we had. Is that what they're?
Well, there are two different methodologies, or a number of different methodologies and different assumptions that you can take. And the carbon and financial auditors are disagreeing on what we should do. And so we haven't had a chance yet of explaining our position and reaching an agreement. But it's not really material difference in a sense.
So I've got my understanding with a financial audit, but obviously it's going beyond financial audit, and we've done the diligence, etc. We get them to sign off it as true and accurate. The fact that we have achieved or not achieved that, I'm still struggling to see how that means we can't sign off.
We can.
On it.
Yeah.
There's no question we can. Yeah. Can I just check this point? As I am understanding the advice we're receiving, is that in the draft that went to Finance, Audit and Risk of the annual report, it said we've achieved it. But after a dialogue with the auditor, the final annual report is going to list it as not achieved. But do I understand that correctly? Right.
But we disagree. You're saying now.
No. What's happened is that in our dialogue with the auditor, in all the areas that they've gone through and checked things, they're happy. But in this one area, they have a different view. And as a consequence, the annual report has been changed from what was ticked off by Finance, Audit and Risk.
So we can sign this off saying we disagree with the auditor's view on it, or we agree with what they picked out. Well, if we didn't try and put that in a performance, you probably understand my view on it. I think it's outside of scope of council, but obviously if this is what a decision of council has decided as a whole, and I've got to accept that. But going back, this is where we're doing energies on stuff which I believe is very much outside of what the ratepayer wants us to do. So I get a little bit concerned that we're umming and ahhing, we've measured it right, measured it wrong, and it seems not much of a science. We should be getting it down to our knitting and not be trying to hit those sorts of targets. But I mean, I might get a bit of a smacking for saying that. But thank you for raising it. And it does. This happened last term, I'm pretty sure, not last term, our last audit. Wasn't that correct? Where we had the auditor, a non-financial measure was debated on. I'd like to see these just being financial achievements.
Well, I think the key thing for the audit office is we're presenting an annual report to the community saying, here's how we did. The audit office's job is to make sure that that is accurate.
Right.
Now, we agreed to set the target. There's been some discussion about whether we met the target or not. I have to tell you, somebody as a previous climate change minister, the measuring of carbon emissions and the methodology is really hard. It makes your head hurt in terms of how you measure it. There's been probably a bit of a discussion. I'm not at all surprised that there's some debate about it. And part of the debate, and we should be very proud as a council about how much we have reduced the greenhouse gas emissions with the huge work we did during the last term on the landfill methane. The numbers are truly impressive. But we want our report to our community to be accurate. So I think the best way forward is for us to accept our officers' advice after their discussions with the Audit Office, but to ask our officers just to flick a note around us to explain. Councillor Stella.
Thanks, Minik. A couple of points of clarification. I mean, an audit doesn't have to be solely a financial audit. It can mean auditing, meeting levels of service or key performance measurements and so on. So I think that's just important we understand this is an annual report. It's more than just a budget or a spreadsheet or so on. Second one, we are in question time and not in debate.
Correct.
Okay, thank you. And then just a question about process. During this term, is there a process for EMs to be involved in looking at the key performance measures, the levels of service and so on? Is that something that happens each term?
Through the Mayor, yes, the performance measures are set as part of the long-term plan process. So, and it really does highlight the importance of getting the wording correct in those performance measures. So, yes, it is. The performance measures are set as part of the long-term plan process. And then obviously the annual report is actually reporting against those performance measures.
So there will be a workshop or a series of workshops where staff present the existing performance measures and say, we think there might be gaps, or we're willing to hear from elected members of where we're going with those and have input from elected members?
Yes, absolutely. It's one of the workshops that's it'd be probably multiple on performance measures because it comes up through all the asset management plans and things like that. So it's a key one. From the last long-term plan, I think we had 76 performance measures. We've now dropped to 40. And the reality is that this is just a move between, meeting 33 versus 32 performance measures. So it's not, it's not material.
Thank you.
Comment from the Chief Executive.
I think it's important to note that this is an unmodified audit report and that they are signing off on their financial statements and statement of service, and they're presented fairly. So that, look, from an auditor, you'd always expect in an audit some commentary, and this is some mild commentary about a thing which we have yet to really analyse and agree or disagree. It's a minor thing, but the key point is this is an unmodified audit report signed off by our appointed auditor.
And the key thing I'd emphasise is that the auditor agreed with 79 of our 80 reports on our performance. On one, they've raised a legitimate question and our officers have agreed to modify the annual report in that respect. Are there any other questions? Councillor Courtney.
Thank you, Matt. Nick, I just threw to you, Nikki, want to understand more. It says in item 26 in your report about the draft land and infrastructure evaluations at 25.5 million compared to a budgeted figure of 46.7 million. That's under budget by 21 million. Can you just refresh my memory as to how that came about? What led up to that, please?
Thank you. That's a really good question. That reflects the revaluation of our asset portfolio that happens annually, and it has been materially higher than budget right through the COVID period because, unit prices for works were going up substantially. What we're seeing in the construction market now is that the pricing is good, and so fortunately, finally, that reval has actually come in under budget. That has a positive impact on our depreciation going forward. So it's actually a good piece of news from my perspective that the price pressure in that infrastructure space is actually easing a bit.
Thank you.
Can I just note for council members, particularly the new ones, is that this annual report shows a surplus for our financial year of 20 million as compared with deficits for the two previous years. Now, some of that surplus is because some of our construction work was not completed, but I would much rather be sitting around a council table that's got a surplus and a deficit, albeit I note those two previous deficits were largely impacted by unexpected costs from the storm that hit us very hard before we decided how we're going to finance it, and also from the impacts of COVID. Having said that, I'd much rather have an annual report with a surplus than a deficit.
I'm happy to move, or you can move, or I can second.
I'd be delighted for the one of the members of Finance, Audit and Risk to move it. I'd be happy as a member of that committee to second it. Thank you to our officers, and particularly thank you for your tolerance with the audit. I would also note for new members' information, we have been having some frustration with the Office of Audit. I have written with the support of Council to getting a private sector auditor as a consequence of the frustrations that the Chief Executive and our finance team has had. The legal decision as to who is our auditor finally rests with the Auditor General, but we have made a case for change. We have repeatedly had extensive frustrations of them wanting to make changes at the very last moment. That has made it very difficult for both our long-term plan process and for the annual report. The motion has been moved and seconded. It is now open for debate. That is resolutions 1 to 6. Councillor Courtney.
Yes, I'd like to say a few words about this, because it is our it is our report card to the community. People that pay their rates and we spend their money. It's how our revenue comes from, and it's our report card, and it's a very important document. And the purpose, as we know, is with the annual report, is to compare the actual activities and performance of council with what was set out in the annual plan for 24-25. And to my way of thinking, it does so clearly, in fact, very clearly, explain all aspects of our expenditure through that report. You see, the financial commentary that's in here talks of a surplus before revaluation of 1 million against a budgeted surplus of 20.1 million. And the reasons for the variance are set out concisely for everyone to understand, ourselves and the public in general. So that's good. But most importantly, this annual report provides accountability to our community for the decisions that we have made as a council throughout the past year. But what catches my attention is the offset of the total operating expenditure being lower than the budget by 10.8 million. And that signals to me that we are running an efficient organisation, an efficient business, I would like to call it, a tight ship. And finally, Mennick, I'd like to just highlight another one, and you touched it briefly, that the annual report shows that the council has achieved 33 out of its 40 performance measures. Now that's very good, and it's slightly up on last year. Again, it shows that the council's on the right track. So I'm very happy to move this, and thank you. If you're seconding it, eh?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Courtney. The comments that I would add is firstly the most reassuring words that I've heard from Nikki in a long time is with respect to depreciation. For those councillors that have been involved in the annual plan and the long-term plan, one of the biggest pressures on our rates is when those valuations of those assets go up, and over the term of the last council went up by over 200 million, is that we then have a depreciation rate applied across that 200 million, which is a wicked hit on the rates. Now, all of that is driven by what has been very high increases in construction costs. And both central and local government, if we are to get the depreciation cost under control, which is essential to us getting our rates under control, is that we need to be very focused on how we can get those construction costs more competitive. Can I compliment our Deputy Chief Executive, who's been taking advantage of some of the more competitive prices from the construction sector, because your work in that area and your team's work is just going to be so pivotal to us being able to keep our rates going forward an affordable space. The last point that I'd re-emphasise is anybody who's in a governance role does not like sitting in the seat when your organisation's running deficits. Right through the Western world, there are councils, state governments and major governments that are struggling with huge deficits. We are in a good position in that after 2 years of deficits, we are in surplus, albeit we are still going to have challenging decisions ahead with both the annual plan and the long-term plan as we try and meet expectations with those cost pressures on the council. Again, I thank the team, not just the financial team, but every member of the council staff who has helped us meet so many of those performance targets over the last financial year 24-25. Councillor Stella.
Thanks, Mayor. I'd just like to make a few comments following on from Councillor Courtney, just how important it is that this annual report and the key performance measures are one of the main ways that we do hold ourselves accountable. I think that means it's an opportunity, really. We have a lot of targets and strategies and goals, and the 40 odd that we have as key performance measures, therefore, are important. It was good to hear earlier that there will be a good process whereby elected members can have input into what those key performance measures are for the next long-term plan, because our priorities do change over time, and I'm certainly front of my mind is the climate change strategy that we adopted in July, and the fact that in tandem with TDC we have had joint transport emission reduction targets since 2021, and these are that sort of target and others in the climate change strategy are really quite easily quantified. We have the data for that, so I understand that sometimes with these performance measures, if they're not easily quantified, it's do we put them in there or not, because it's difficult to demonstrate if we've met them. So exactly what we might be thinking of in terms of performance measures when we look at them next, that's up to everybody around this table, but I think it's something that as elected members we can give some thought to, because it is so important in terms of accountability.
Thanks, Councillor Stallard. Any other contributions? Trusting the mover does not require his relative reply, I'm then going to put resolutions 1 to 6. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
To the contrary, say no. That is carried. I'll ask the Councillor Paki to conclude the meeting with the karakia whakamatanga.
Tēnā tātou. 3 times. Breath in, breath out. So, hā ki roto, hā ki waho. Hā ki roto, hā ki waho. Hā ki roto, hā ki waho. Hau, hau mare.
Council's concluded. Again, congratulations to all of our elected members. Look forward to working every one of you. That key workshop next week on governance will be quite important. Both myself and the Deputy Mayor will be in discussions with you individually as I try and mould together. The big thing for me, as much as possible, I want to meet each of your expectations in your individual meetings with me about your areas of interest. But equally so, you need to understand that between myself and Pete, we need to mould, because I've got some areas where there are multiple interests, and to try and manage those. And we'll be talking with each of you over the next couple of weeks as we finalise that in advance of our council meeting on November 13th. Thank you again. Council concluded.
Just a wee comment from me before we go.